The rain fell hard that night. The wind howled like a lonely wolf across the open fields. John lived alone on his farm, far from the city. He liked the silence, the slow life, the peace. But that night, something felt different. It was nearly midnight when he heard it. A soft sound like someone crying. He stood at his kitchen window. Holding a cup of tea, he listened again. Yes, it was coming from outside near the old chicken coop. John put on his coat, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped into the storm. Rain soaked his boots as he walked through the mud. The sound grew clearer, small whimpers like children. He frowned, thinking maybe a fox had gotten into the coop again, but it didn't sound like animals this time. The old coop hadn't been used in months. Its roof was half broken. The wooden door hung loose. John approached slowly. Shining his light toward it, he called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer, just the sound of tiny sobs. He pushed the door open and it creaked loudly. The light from his flashlight swept across the dark interior. And then he froze. In the corner, huddled under a torn blanket, was a woman, but not just a woman. Her skin was faintly blue and shimmered in the light. Two small children clung to her, hiding behind her arms. Their eyes were large, glowing faint gold. They looked terrified, soaking wet and shaking. John stepped back, heart pounding. "What the hell?" he whispered, almost dropping his flashlight. The woman raised her hand slowly. "Please," she said in a weak voice. "Please don't be afraid," she spoke clear English. But her voice had a strange echo. "My children. They needed a dry place." "I didn't mean to trespass." John didn't know what to say. He had never seen aliens in real life, not like this. He had heard stories, rumors on the radio, government secrets. But seeing them right there in his broken-down coop, it didn't feel like science fiction anymore. It felt real. He looked at the children again. They were skinny, their clothes torn, their tiny feet bare and muddy. The older one looked up at him. Eyes wide with fear, John's heart softened. They didn't look dangerous, they looked helpless. The woman coughed, covering her mouth. "We are not here to hurt anyone," she said. "We were running. We had nowhere else to go." John took a slow breath, lowering his flashlight. "You're not safe out here," he said, glancing at the rain pouring through the holes in the coop roof. "This place is falling apart." She gave a small nod. "It was the only shelter we could find." John rubbed his forehead. Unsure what to do, he knew he should call someone. The police. The army. Someone. But looking at those shivering children, he couldn't do it. Something inside him said no. "All right," he said slowly. "Come with me to the barn. It's dry there." The woman hesitated, then nodded. She stood slowly, her legs weak, holding one child in her arms while the other walked beside her. John led them across the wet field, back toward the big red barn. He opened the door and lit the lantern inside. The air inside was warmer, dry and filled with the smell of hay. He grabbed old blankets and laid them down. The mother sat down, holding her children close. "Thank you," she whispered, almost too soft to hear. John handed her a flask of warm tea. "What's your name?" he asked. "I can't give you my real one," she said gently, "but you can call me Leary." "And the kids?" "They are my children, Avo and Nia." John sat on a wooden crate, watching them silently. He had so many questions but didn't know where to start. Why were they here? Where were they from? Who were they running from? But he didn't ask yet. They looked too tired, too scared, too broken. Just as he was about to stand and leave them to rest, a low growl echoed from outside the barn. John froze. He turned off the lantern, his ears alert, another growl, closer this time, low and deep. Leary sat upright, her eyes wide with fear. "They found us," she whispered. "Please, don't let them take my children." John felt his stomach twist. He didn't know what was outside, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let anyone hurt those kids tonight. The growl came again, deeper this time. John's heart began to beat faster. Rain still fell outside, but now it sounded far away. Drowned by the low rumble of danger, he looked at Leary, the alien mother. Her glowing blue skin had gone pale. Her arms pulled her children closer, as if she could hide them inside her. "What's out there?" John whispered. Leary shook her head slowly. "A hunter," she said, her voice trembling. "They can smell us. They follow our trail across the stars." Her words didn't make sense to John, but the fear in her eyes was real. Whatever it was, she knew it well, and she was terrified. John grabbed the old shotgun hanging on the barn wall. He hadn't used it in years, mostly for foxes and stray dogs. He loaded 2 shells with shaking hands, he whispered. "Stay quiet. Keep them hidden." Then he moved toward the door, his boots silent on the barn floor. The rain had softened to a drizzle, but the fog was thick. He could barely see beyond a few feet. The flashlight beam cut through the mist. And there, something moved near the chicken coop. Tall and thin, John squinted, holding his breath. The shape bent down, sniffing the mud. Then it turned its head slowly. Its eyes glowed yellow in the dark. Too far apart to be human, John felt his blood run cold. The creature stood upright. It was at least 7 feet tall. With long limbs and skin that shimmered like oil, it moved with quiet grace, sniffing again, growling low. John's finger hovered near the trigger, but he didn't shoot. He knew one sound could bring it running straight toward them. The creature tilted its head as if listening to something only it could hear. Then it walked toward the barn, slow but steady. Inside, Leary felt it too. She whispered to her children in her strange language. Holding them tight, her skin pulsed faintly with light, like she was trying to hide her energy. The younger child, Nia, began to whimper. Leary covered her mouth gently, whispering, "Shh, my light. Shh." John pressed his back against the barn door, holding his breath. He could hear the creature's claws scratching against the wood. It was right there, just inches away. His hands were sweaty, the shotgun heavy. For a moment, he thought the creature might push through, but then, from far away, a sharp whistle echoed through the woods. The creature stopped moving. It turned its head toward the sound, hissed softly, and ran off into the fog. John stayed frozen, listening until the footsteps faded away. Only then did he lower his gun, his whole body shaking. He opened the door slightly and looked out. Nothing but rain and darkness. He closed it again and turned toward Leary. "It's gone," he said quietly. "For now." But Leary didn't look relieved. "Only sad they never stop," she whispered. "If one finds our scent, more will come." John knelt beside her, trying to understand, what do they want with you? Leary looked at her children, then at him. "We escaped," she said, "from a prison in the sky." John blinked, thinking he had misheard. "A prison? Like aliens keeping other aliens?" She nodded weakly. "They collect survivors, use them for experiments, for breeding, for war." Her voice broke on the last word. "I had to run, even if it meant dying on another world." John sat in silence, trying to process her words. He wanted to believe it was just a story, a nightmare, but the fear in her voice, the tears in her children's eyes, it was all too real. He sighed. "You're safe here for tonight." She looked at him, her eyes glowing faint gold again. "You don't understand," she said softly. "You helped us. Now you are marked too," John frowned. "Marked? How?" She reached out and touched his hand. A faint blue light pulsed from her skin to his on the back of his hand. A small glowing symbol appeared for a second, then faded. He pulled back, shocked. "What did you just do?" "It's not me," Leary said, her voice full of sorrow. "The hunters use energy scent. Now they will track you too." John stood up, pacing, trying to think. He didn't have answers, but he knew one thing. He couldn't just throw them out. He had to find a way to hide them, or all of them would die. The rain outside stopped, but thunder rolled in the distance. John peeked out the window. In the far sky, above the forest, faint red lights flickered like stars moving slowly. They weren't stars. They were ships searching, he whispered to himself. "God help us," Leary gathered her children and whispered. "We can leave before dawn, if you let us." John looked at her tired face and shook his head. "No one is going anywhere until morning," he said. "You need rest and I need a plan," she wanted to argue. But she was too weak. Her eyes closed as she held her children close, whispering lullabies in her strange voice. John sat by the window, watching the fog move like ghosts through the trees. Every sound made him flinch. Every flash of light made his stomach tighten. He didn't know what he had gotten himself into, but one thing was clear. His quiet, lonely life was over, somewhere in the darkness. The hunter roared again, closer than before. The morning came gray and cold. The rain had stopped, but fog still hung low over the fields. John had not slept at all. He sat near the barn window, shotgun in hand, eyes half open. Every noise made his heart jump. Every shadow felt alive behind him. Leary and her children were sleeping on the hay. The kids were curled up beside her, their little faces peaceful at last, but something looked wrong. Her skin, once glowing faint blue, was now dull and gray. Her breathing was shallow, almost silent. John stood and walked closer. He whispered, "Leary?" But she didn't answer. He knelt beside her, touching her hand. It was ice cold. The younger child, Nia, opened her eyes and whispered, "Mama?" Her voice broke the silence like glass. The older child, Avo, sat up quickly. Panic in his face. "She's sick again," he said. His voice shaking, John didn't know what to do. He looked around the barn, searching for anything that could help. But what could a farmer do for an alien mother? He ran to his house, grabbed a blanket and water. When he returned, the children were crying softly. John wrapped Leary tightly, trying to warm her. "Come on, stay with me," he muttered. Her eyelids fluttered, and she whispered something in a weak voice. John leaned closer. "What did you say?" "I gave them all my warmth," she murmured. Her eyes moved toward her children. They needed it more. John felt a sharp pain in his chest. She had given her energy, her life. To keep her children alive, the boy Avo spoke quickly. "She needs energy light." John frowned. "What's that?" The boy pointed at the faint glow on Leary's wrist. "It's almost gone," he said. "She will fade." John didn't understand alien biology, but he could see she was dying. He stood up, thinking fast. The only person who might know something was Clara. She was a retired scientist who lived 2 miles away. She had worked for the government once, long ago. If anyone could understand this, it would be her. He looked at the children. "Stay here. Keep her warm." But Nia clutched his sleeve. "Don't leave us," she cried. John sighed, torn between them. He said softly, "I'll come back. I promise." Then he ran out into the misty morning. The mud splashed under his boots as he rushed to the truck. The engine coughed, then roared to life. He drove fast along the narrow dirt road. The fog was thick, hiding the world in gray. But John's mind was clear. He had to save her. No matter what, at Clara's cabin, he slammed the door open. She looked up from her table, startled. "John? What in the world?" He cut her off. "Clara, I need your help. It's urgent." She saw the panic in his eyes and didn't argue. "What happened?" she asked. John hesitated, then said, "It's not human, Clara." "She's not human." Clara blinked, confused. "You're serious?" "I am," John said. "She's dying, and I can't just let her." Clara grabbed her medical bag and followed him outside. As they drove back, she listened as John explained everything. The rain, the alien woman, the children, the hunter in the fog. When they reached the barn, Clara froze at the sight. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You weren't lying." Leary lay weakly on the hay, her skin dull and cold. Clara knelt beside her, scanning her body with a small handheld device. "She's not like any species I've studied," Clara said, her voice full of wonder and fear. "She's losing bioenergy fast," John asked. "Can you help her?" Clara hesitated. "Maybe, but it will take energy. More than we have." John looked around, desperate. "Take mine," he said without thinking. Clara frowned. "You don't even know what that means." "I don't care," he said firmly. "Just save her." Clara stared at him for a moment, then sighed. She took a cable from her bag and attached one end to her device. "Hold her hand," she said. John did, feeling the faint pulse of warmth beneath her skin. Clara connected the other end to a small battery unit. The machine hummed softly. Leary's body jerked. Her breathing quickened. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment. Glowing faintly, John leaned closer. "You're okay now," he said softly. She looked at him, weak but alive. Then suddenly, the machine beeped loudly. Clara frowned. "Something's wrong." The small battery sparked, releasing a flash of light. The children screamed as a strange glow spread across the barn. Leary gasped and gripped John's hand tightly. When the light faded, the machine was dead. Smoke rose from its wires. Clara checked Leary's pulse. It was faint. "She's still alive," she said. "But her body is unstable." John nodded, relief flooding his face. But then Avo spoke in a trembling voice. "They can find her now." John turned to him. "What do you mean?" The boy lifted his sleeve, revealing a small symbol glowing faintly on his skin. "When the light touched her, it woke the mark," he said. Clara looked shocked. "A tracking mark?" The boy nodded. "They know where we are, outside." Thunder rolled again, not from the sky, but from engines. John rushed to the barn door in the distance. Faint red lights moved through the fog, coming closer, he whispered. "They're here." The red lights in the fog moved like hungry eyes. John felt his throat go dry. The sound of engines echoed faintly through the valley. "They're close," Clara whispered, gripping the side of the barn door. Her face had turned pale under the soft glow of her lantern. Leary was still weak, lying on the hay with her children beside her. Her skin flickered between dull gray and faint blue. Her eyes opened slowly as she whispered, "They found us," John turned to her. "Who are they?" Her voice trembled. "Hunters." From the void, John checked his shotgun. It was useless against whatever had ships in the sky, but he needed something. He looked at Clara. "Can we move her?" Clara shook her head. "She won't survive a long trip. But we can't stay here either." Outside, a bright red beam scanned across the treetops, lighting the fog like fire. Leary's son, Avo, pressed his hands together and whispered in their language. The glow on his arm pulsed faster, Clara noticed. "He's linked to them somehow." The boy looked up, frightened. "They can feel me when I'm scared." John knelt beside him. "Then stay brave, kid," he said softly. "We'll keep you safe." The engine hum grew louder. Closer. John opened the back door of the barn, motioning everyone to follow. "Through the woods? There's an old storm shelter," he said. "We can hide there." Clara helped Leary stand, wrapping her in blankets. The children held onto her arms as they stumbled out into the mist. The fog swallowed them quickly. Their footsteps splashed through puddles, hearts pounding. Behind them, the red light swept across the fields. Then came a metallic screech, a landing. Something heavy touched the ground near the barn. John didn't look back. He could hear strange voices, mechanical and low. They spoke a language that didn't sound human. He held Leary's arm tightly, guiding her through the trees. Branches scratched his face, mud clung to his boots. After what felt like forever, they reached a metal door half buried in the earth. John kicked it open, revealing a dark tunnel inside. "Go," he said. "Clara, take the kid." He followed last, shutting the heavy door behind them. The silence inside was almost too loud. The tunnel smelled of rust and damp air. Old lights flickered weakly along the wall. Leary sank to the floor, breathing hard. Her children hugged her, crying softly. John knelt beside them. "You're safe now," he said, though even he didn't believe it. Clara touched his arm, whispering, "They'll find this place soon. We need to block the signal." John frowned. "How?" She pulled a small metal box from her bag. "It's a jammer I built years ago, never thought I'd need it," she said with a nervous smile. She switched it on and a faint blue field shimmered around them. Leary looked at it weakly. "That might hide us for a while." But her tone was not hopeful. John sat beside her, still gripping his shotgun. "You said they were hunters from the void," he said quietly. "Why are they after you?" She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Because I took something from them," she said. "Something they want back." Clara's eyes widened. "What is it?" Leary reached into the folds of her blanket and pulled out a small glowing crystal. It pulsed softly like a beating heart. "This," she whispered, "is a life seed." John stared. "What does it do?" "It restores life to dying worlds," she said. "They want to use it as a weapon instead." Clara exhaled sharply. "That's incredible." Leary shook her head. "It's cursed. Every world it saves, another must die." She looked down at her children. "I ran to protect them, not to save the galaxy." John understood now. It wasn't just about survival. It was about guilt and love. He admired her strength even as her body trembled. But before he could speak, a sharp noise cut through the silence. A metallic thud echoed from above, then another closer. Clara looked at the jammer. It was flickering. "They found us," she said. "The signal's breaking," the children cried softly. Holding onto their mother, John stood up, jaw tight. He whispered, "They'll have to go through me first." He climbed the narrow steps back to the metal door. Through the cracks, he could see faint red light shining down. Shadows moved, 3 figures, tall, thin, armored. Their helmets glowed faintly as they scanned the ground. Their weapons hummed like electricity in the air. John aimed the shotgun at the door. He knew it wouldn't kill them, but maybe it would slow them down. Clara's voice echoed from below. "John, don't. There are too many." He didn't answer. His heart pounded in his chest, every beat louder than the rain outside. Then, without warning, one of the hunters spoke, a strange, cold voice. "Return what is ours, or we will burn this world." Leary looked up from below, her eyes full of tears. "They will do it," she whispered. "They always do." John gritted his teeth, his voice steady. "Over my dead body." The door shook as something hit it hard. Metal screamed and bent inward. Clara pulled the kids deeper into the tunnel. Leary reached out her hand toward John, light gathering weakly around her fingers. "John," she whispered, "if they break through." "Run with my children." He looked back at her, his face pale but firm. "I don't run," he said softly. "Not while there's something worth protecting." The hunters outside began to cut through the metal door with glowing blades. Sparks rained down into the tunnel, and John took a deep breath, his finger tightening on the trigger. The metal door screamed as glowing blades carved through it. Sparks fell like burning snow, lighting the tunnel with red flashes. John held his shotgun steady, jaw tight. He had never seen war, never faced monsters. But now he stood between death and the only family he had left. Leary lay behind him, too weak to stand. Her children huddled close, eyes wide with fear. Clara crouched near them, hands working fast on her device. "I'm trying to overload the jammer," she said. "One big pulse might fry their scanners." John nodded, not looking away from the door. A sharp hiss filled the air, then silence. The metal was nearly cut through now. One more strike would break it open. John raised his weapon, heart racing, then boom. A blast of energy hit the roof of the tunnel from above. Dust rained down, the ground shook. Everyone screamed as part of the tunnel collapsed behind them. Clara fell, grabbing the children. Shielding them with her arms, John turned in shock. That wasn't from the hunters, it came from the sky. The hunters froze too, stepping back from the door. They looked up, red lights blinking rapidly on their armor. Then a voice echoed from far above, loud and sharp. "This sector is under quarantine by Galactic Order Unit 17. John didn't understand, but Clara gasped. "Oh no." "That's worse," she whispered. "The Order?" John asked. She nodded. "Alien law force, but not heroes, not saviors." A second explosion lit up the surface. Through the cracks in the metal door, John saw shadows falling. Dozens of figures, dropping from the sky like stars with wings. Armored, faceless, silent. They landed around the hunters and opened fire. The sound was deafening, red light, blue light. Metal sparks, it was chaos. John dropped to the floor, covering his ears. The door flew off its hinges and crashed into the tunnel wall. Smoke poured in, along with the blinding lights of energy weapons. One of the hunters tried to escape, but he was struck by a blue net that froze him mid-air. His body hit the ground like stone. The two other hunters fired back, but were overwhelmed in seconds. The Order soldiers moved like machines, perfect and deadly. Then, silence again. John looked up, coughing through the smoke. Several tall figures entered the tunnel. Their armor was gold and silver, eyes hidden behind black glass. The leader stepped forward and scanned the room. He spoke in a deep, calm voice. "Subject 4BX escaped from Sector Xylon 6, Clara stood, putting herself between him and Leary. "She's not a threat," she said. "She has children." The soldier looked at her coldly. "She carries stolen property." John moved closer, still holding the shotgun. "She saved her kids. That's not a crime." Another soldier raised his weapon at him. The leader lifted his hand, stopping him. "We do not harm Earthborn unless necessary," he said. He walked past John and stopped in front of Leary. She looked up at him, too tired to speak. Her arms wrapped around her children protectively. The soldier's scanner beeped, reading the glowing crystal hidden in her coat. "Life seed confirmed," he said. "Extraction required." John stepped forward. "No," he said firmly. "You're not taking it." The soldier turned his head slowly. "You do not understand its danger." John didn't back down. "All I understand is that she ran to protect her children," he said. "That means something." The leader was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Clara. "You are former Terra Science Division," he said. Clara nodded carefully. "Yes, long retired." "Then you know the power of the seed." Clara glanced at Leary, then at the soldiers. "It's not just a power source, is it?" The soldier nodded. "It is a genetic key to rebuild ecosystems, repair time scars, even resurrect fallen species." John blinked. "Wait. It can bring back the dead?" "In some ways," the soldier replied. "But each use drains another world." Leary coughed, forcing herself to speak. "I didn't steal it to use it," she whispered. "I just didn't want them to weaponize it." The leader tilted his head. "You mean the hunters?" Leary nodded. "They plan to use it to destroy enemy colonies and repopulate with engineered life." A long silence filled the tunnel. Then the leader said, "Your action violated the Interstellar Protection Code." But I understand your reason. John narrowed his eyes. So what now? The soldier looked at Leary's children. They are unregistered. Unknown species mix, Clara stepped forward. They were born here. They have done nothing wrong. The leader looked down at Leary, then back at his team. He raised one hand and the others lowered their weapons. We will not take her by force, he said finally. But the seed must be locked or removed. Leary touched the glowing stone. If I give it to you, will you leave us alone? The soldier nodded. Your children may remain on Earth. If the Terran agrees to host them, John didn't even need to think. He placed a hand on Avo's shoulder. They have a home with me. Leary smiled weakly, tears in her glowing eyes. She placed the crystal in the soldier's hand, and it dimmed. The soldier nodded once, then, without a word. The order soldiers turned and left outside. Their ships rose silently into the sky. Vanishing into the stars, the storm was over. For now, inside the tunnel, Leary leaned against the wall. Exhausted but alive, she whispered, "Thank you," as her children hugged her tight. John sat down beside them. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight they were safe, and that was enough. The silence after the storm felt strange. The order soldiers had vanished into the sky, taking the life seed with them. The tunnel was quiet, but the weight in the air remained. Leary leaned against the wall, barely able to hold herself upright. Her children sat close to her, watching her with worried eyes. John lit a lantern and placed it near her. Try to rest, he said softly. Leary gave a weak smile. I am trying. Clara knelt beside her, placing a small scanner over her chest. Her face slowly turned serious, John noticed. What is it? Clara didn't answer right away. She stared at the scanner, then whispered, Something's wrong. John's stomach turned. Wrong how? Clara looked at Leary. Her organs are shutting down. Leary didn't look surprised. She closed her eyes and said quietly, It began when I gave you the mark. John remembered the faint glow on his hand when she touched him days ago. You gave me something, didn't you? He asked. She nodded slowly. A part of my life, so the hunters would sense you, not me. John felt his breath catch. You risked yourself to protect your children, he said. Leary opened her eyes. I would give everything for them. Clara's voice cut in, firm and fast. We're not letting you die. Leary's breathing was shallow, but she gave a small smile. Clara stood and turned to John. There's a way, she said, but it's not safe. John's eyes narrowed. Tell me. Clara took a deep breath. Leary's body is failing, but her core energy is still active. She needs a life stabilizer, something to sync her pulse with a living host. John blinked. A host? You mean someone like me? Clara nodded. It's like a tether. You share your energy, your strength. But if your body can't handle it... John didn't flinch. Then I die. Clara looked away. Yes, Leary tried to sit up. No, I won't allow it. John moved to her side, holding her hand gently. You didn't let me die in that barn, he said. Now it's my turn, Leary's voice cracked. You have a life, John, a future. He smiled sadly. I didn't until I met you. Clara began preparing the device. It was a strange alien tool with wires and lights that pulsed like veins. She placed it between John and Leary. This will connect your energy fields, she explained. Your heart, your breath, your willpower, it all becomes one. John nodded. Kneeling beside Leary, her children began to cry. Mama, don't go, whispered Nia. Leary touched her daughter's cheek. I'm trying, my light. I'm trying. Clara connected the device to their hands. John looked into Leary's glowing eyes. Are you ready? Clara asked. Neither of them spoke, but their hands tightened together. Clara activated the machine and a soft hum filled the tunnel. A golden light spread across their arms. Leary gasped, her back arching as the energy entered her. John closed his eyes, pain shooting through his body. It felt like fire and ice twisting through his veins. His heartbeat sped up, his vision blurred. He heard voices, Leary's memories, her fears, her love for her children. They were inside his mind now. He saw flashes of her world, a green sky filled with glowing trees, ships burning in the air, a prison of glass and sound. And the moment she escaped with 2 babies and 1 stolen hope. His body trembled, his heart slowed, but he didn't let go. He focused on one thought, keep her alive. Then suddenly the light faded. Clara rushed forward, checking them both. Leary coughed and opened her eyes, bright and clear. Her skin glowed a healthy blue again. her breathing steady. "She's stable," Clara whispered, stunned. The children cried with joy. Hugging their mother tightly, John, however, was lying still, his skin pale. His body unmoving, Clara bent down, her fingers on his neck. "He's alive," she said, "but very weak." Leary crawled to his side, tears running down her cheeks. "You didn't have to do this," she whispered. John opened his eyes slowly. "I wanted to," he said faintly. "Because you deserve to live." Leary placed her forehead against his. "You are not just human, John," she said softly. "You are Heartfire." The tunnel was quiet again. But the feeling had changed. They were not just survivors now, they were family. Clara leaned back, exhausted. "I don't know what happens next," she said, "but this was a miracle." John smiled, barely able to speak. "I never believed in miracles," he whispered. "Until now." The sun rose slowly over the hills for the first time in days. The sky was clear, no red lights, no storm, no hunters, just soft morning light falling across the wet grass. The earth smelled clean, like it had been washed and forgiven. John opened his eyes, blinking against the light. He was lying on a soft bed of hay, wrapped in a blanket. His body still ached. But the pain was different now, gentle, like healing. He turned his head and saw Leary sitting beside him. She smiled, her skin glowing faint blue again, her eyes warm and steady. "You're awake," she whispered. John nodded slowly, his throat dry. "You look better," he said with a small smile. Leary reached for his hand, holding it tightly. "I am because of you," she replied. "You gave me life." Behind her, the children played quietly in the sunlight that peeked through the cracks in the barn walls. Nia was drawing on the dirt with a stick, and Ava was trying to build something with straw and rocks. They giggled, free of fear for the first time since they arrived. John's heart felt full. It had been years since this old barn had heard laughter. Clara entered with a cup of tea, her eyes tired but kind. "You're tough, John," she said, handing it to him. "I feel like I've been hit by a truck," he joked weakly. "You sort of were," Clara smiled, sitting beside him. "You and Leary are now connected." "Permanently?" John blinked. "What do you mean?" Clara explained. "Your energy fields are now bonded like roots under the soil. You'll share strength, emotion, even small thoughts at times." John looked at Leary. Surprised, she nodded. "I can feel your kindness inside me." "Always," John blushed, looking away. He had never expected any of this when he woke up just a few days ago. No one could have. He was just a farmer. But now he had something more, something that felt like a purpose. "What happens next?" he asked. Clara shrugged. "That's up to you two." The order left, and the hunters won't return, not with the life seed gone. But the world isn't ready to meet aliens yet. John nodded. "We'll keep their secret." They stayed in the barn for a few more days. John built beds out of hay and wood. He fixed the roof, added windows, cleaned the space like never before. It became a home, not just a hiding place. Leary helped when she had strength, and the children filled the air with joy. One evening they sat around a small fire. The stars were bright above them. Leary looked up and said, "On my world, we believe stars were the eyes of ancestors." John smiled. "Then your ancestors must be proud tonight." She nodded slowly. "And I hope yours are too." The children sat on John's lap, sharing stories in broken English and giggles. They had begun calling him something new. Pa. At first, it surprised him, but now it felt right. Not forced, not strange, just true. Clara prepared to leave the next morning. She hugged each child, then turned to Leary. "You have a home here," she said. "But you must be careful," Leary nodded. "We will stay hidden." Clara looked at John. "And you?" "Don't mess this up," he laughed. "No promises," she smiled, then drove away down the muddy road, disappearing into the trees. The wind whispered through the fields, gentle and slow. Leary stood beside John. Holding his hand, she asked softly, "Are you sure about this?" John turned to her. "I've never been more sure of anything. You and the kids. You're not a problem. You're the family I didn't know I was missing." Leary leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. "You are Heartfire," she whispered again. "The rare kind." Seasons changed slowly. Spring brought flowers to the edges of the fields. John taught Avo how to build a fence. Leary planted alien seeds in the garden. They glowed faint purple at night. Nia chased birds and made friends with the farm animals. No one from the government came. No ships returned from the sky. The world moved on, unaware of the miracle that had landed in one lonely farmer's barn. And John didn't need the world to know. He had what he needed, right here. One night as the stars burned above them, Leary sat beside John on the porch, holding a sleeping Nia in her arms. Avo slept beside the dog. Curled up under a blanket, John whispered, "Do you ever miss your world?" Leary looked at him for a long time, then she said, "I used to. But now, I have something better." John looked into her glowing eyes, and for the first time in years he didn't feel alone. He felt chosen, not by accident, not by luck, but by something bigger. A family had fallen from the stars into his life, and he had caught them, held them, and healed them. As they had healed him, the stars above didn't blink. But if they had, they might have smiled. For even in the dark corners of the universe, there is still light, there is still hope, and sometimes it begins in a broken coop during a storm.